Voting is a civic duty. Let's register on the electoral list. This is a message from Equinoxe Television.
Hello to all of you viewers of Equinoxe Television. It's 6 p.m. in Douala. It's time for the news in the English language. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Our major stories this evening: drug consumption by adolescents has taken central stage recently, especially in the school milieu. Recently, hard drugs which look like sweets have been found in school bags, while cigarettes and even cocaine were discovered in bread as students try to smuggle them into school campuses. Parents and teachers must be vigilant at this crucial moment. We'll tell you more in this news edition. And the lifeless body of a toddler who went missing in the Cité de la Paix neighborhood was found. That was in Kumba. The child was beheaded. Also, we'll be telling you more about that in this edition of the news. Those are our major stories. Details when we come back. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for the confidence. We just told you in the headlines that the lifeless body of a toddler about 3 years old who went missing at the Cité de la Paix neighborhood in Kumba has been found. Ngonga Daniel, that is the name of the boy, was found with a deep wound in his neck and he was half naked. His body was abandoned in a building. The 3-year-old was living with his grandmother when the incident happened. Security forces have opened investigations and a corpse has been sealed. Let's now have more with Smaljikan Gabriel.
Consternation grieves the inhabitants of Cité de la Paix in Block 13 quarter of Kumba, Mongo Division, as the lifeless body of a 3-year-old boy by name Ngonga Daniel was discovered after he was declared missing for 1 day. It is my little boy who was born in front of me. As I was moving up, I saw him playing by the sand. When I returned, her grandma called me that she has not seen Ngonga because they wanted to bathe him. After a long search without seeing him, at about 11 p.m., the grandma went to drop a complaint with the security forces.
On a cherché jusqu'à 23h. C'est à 23h là qu'on a pris sa grand-mère et Aïcha. Ils sont partis au commissariat signaler.
The inhabitants were taken aback as they discovered that the neck of Ngonga Daniel was slightly cut open and he was met half naked. The grandmother of Ngonga Daniel, with whom the son was living with, says God will save those who took away the life of her great-grandson, Ngonga Daniel. I don't know what wrong I have done to someone. The child is innocent and doesn't even talk. It is only God who will judge those who did this to my great-grandson. Alerted by the shocking incident, local authorities within Kumba, amongst them the State Council, a medical officer, and elements of the public security alongside gendarmes descended to the scene where the body of Ngonga Daniel was taken away. For now, the lifeless body of Ngonga Daniel has been kept in the morgue to be removed only after investigations must have ended.
Sad indeed. Now let's talk something else. In addition to the maneuvers of the BR regime to exclude Professor Maurice Kamto from the 2025 presidential election, other obstacles exist to make his path slippery somehow. Mobilization of 300 state personalities in all the 10 regions to grant him eligibility is foreseen as a major obstacle, given that they are answerable to the central government. Let's now have the details of that with our reporter Innocent Aze.
In the context of Maurice Kamto's candidacy for the upcoming 2025 presidential election, several bottlenecks could make his path to investiture slippery, especially in a system where political and administrative institutions are heavily influenced by the regime in place. Here are the main potential obstacles. First, the requirement to collect 300 signatures from influential personalities from the various regions of the country, including MPs, senators, municipal and regional councillors, traditional rulers and others, constitutes a major obstacle. These personalities are often vassalized by the government in place, which makes their support difficult to be obtained by an opponent like Maurice Kamto. Their proximity to power makes it unlikely that they will be willing to sign in favor of a candidate who directly challenges the established order. Another problem is that the Constitutional Council, although responsible for validating candidacies, can be perceived as a vassal institution, especially if the composition of this council reflects loyalty to the government. In the event of a challenge to candidacies or the interpretation of laws, the Constitutional Council could render decisions that would have candidates deemed non-aligned at a disadvantage. The territorial administration and local authorities under the control of the central government can complicate the organization of campaigns, the collection of signatures, and compliance with electoral procedures. The candidacy of Maurice Kamto in Cameroon, although supported by legal basis, faces several institutional and political obstacles. The interdependence between government authorities, political parties, and administrative institutions makes competition in a truly fair democratic framework difficult to achieve. It therefore becomes crucial for a candidate like Maurice Kamto to navigate between alliances, popular mobilization, and legal constraints to hope for effective and successful participation in the 2025 presidential election.
Now let's come back to the outing of Professor Abba Oyono on our Sunday program, La Vérité en Face. He lamented on the deplorable state of the higher education system in the country and insists that the entire system must be reviewed. Let's now have the highlights with Cédric Chakuto in this write-up.
Les formations théoriques ne permettent pas aux étudiants d'accéder au plein emploi. Ils ne savent rien faire. C'est des réciteurs de livres.
University Don Professor Abba Oyono Jean Calvin laments over the poor educational system of Cameroon. He points to the fact that training in higher institutions of learning do not make the exigencies of the job market and the fast-moving world of job creation.
Notre système d'enseignement supérieur pose problème.
Our higher educational system is problematic. We produce jobless people. I have been hearing this political slogan, a university student, a job. I assure you, it is an empty slogan. The post of vice rector in charge of relations with the professional world in universities. Establish a balance sheet. Go to those vice rectors and ask them how many students they have positioned for employment after training.
Au sortir de l'université.
The poor working conditions of lecturers is another side of the problem.
Même nous autres enseignants, on est très mal payés à l'université.
Professor Abba Oyono recommends an overhaul of the whole system. He adds that the practical part of the learning process should be upgraded and given due consideration.
Il faut des états généraux de l'enseignement supérieur.
There is need to make an overall assessment of higher education. Minister Famindongo has been Minister of Higher Education for 20 years. What is his balance sheet? We need to rethink the educational system and redirect it to job creation.
En les orientant vers la création des emplois, parce que moi je pense que c'est la clé du succès. Hein.
He concludes by saying, job creation is the key to success, wealth creation, prosperity, growth, and well-being of a nation and her people.
Now, to one of our major lead stories, hard drug consumption in the school milieu is taking an upward trend, thus having a negative impact on the performance of students who consume these drugs. Those in charge with distributing these hard drugs on campuses have adopted strategies that can help them easily gain access into school campuses. Immaculate Fogwe reports on one of such strategies used by those recalcitrant students.
Hard drugs concealed in bread and later smuggled on campus. This picture, which has been trending on social media, depicts techniques currently used by some students in order to facilitate the commercialization of these drugs in school milieus. In recent times, Cameroon has been grappling with a distressing upsurge in drug abuse, making some school milieu unsafe for children. I saw the picture on social media. The bread was stuffed with hard drugs in it. It's really disheartening to see that our youth are now focused on trivialities rather than getting themselves equipped with the required skills that will enable them excel. Teachers decry rising drug abuse among youths while imploring parents not to allow their children to become wayward. According to teachers, poor parenting is a major contributing factor to this alarming trend. This is just one of the many strategies used by students to smuggle hard drugs on campus. Here at Government High School Equinoxe, we have taken significant measures to help prevent such from happening. As a president of the health club, we present reports on the dangers of drug abuse at the National Assembly every Friday. Our aim is to sensitize our peers on how these drugs can limit our lifespan. The long-term consequences of teen drug use can have severe impacts on various aspects of teenagers' life. These effects include deteriorating mental health and impaired cognitive function. Students are urged to resist peer pressure, abstain from drug abuse, and live a healthy life.
In health, Cameroon today joins the international community to observe the World Cancer Day. Cancer, which is caused by a combination of genetic, environmental and lifestyle factors, is a major health concern in Cameroon. And our reporter Lucille Yenguese spoke with some medics on how cancer can be prevented and also the treatment.
Cameroon is experiencing a rise in cancer cases and death. The World Health Organization estimates that Cameroon has approximately 19,564 new cancer cases each year, with 65% related death. This disease, according to a medical doctor at the Cameroon Oncology Center, Dr. Chobe Joe Brown, is caused by several factors.
One of them is the cervical cancer, especially due to what we call the human papilloma virus. But with studies that has recently been done, we realize that other cofactors such as the presence of HIV can also contribute highly in some cancers such as the vaginal cancers and also the uterine cancer. Cancer can occur in any part of the body. And also we should note that if your mother or your auntie has, you are highly at risk of having breast cancer. Also, old age.
He goes further to explain the most common types of cancers that exist in Cameroon.
The most common cancers in our own settings for women are mostly breast and cervical cancer, and for men it's mostly prostate cancer. Although in both sexes we also have rectal and lung cancers that are very common, and nasopharyngeal cancer.
In order to prevent cancer, a medical doctor, Dr. Muvula Marcel, recommends
if anybody need to go in for any medical treatment, especially pharmaceutical treatment, it should be under the prescription of a medical practitioner. Regular checkup, especially like I was talking of the case of breast cancer for women, should also go for the vaginal semen regularly to check if they are exposed to the human papilloma virus, the HPV.
As Cameroon joins the world each year on the 4th of February to observe World Cancer Day, call on patients to...
You should be very aware of yourself. If you see anything that change on your body, be it even a dot, anything, even a swelling anywhere.
The theme of World Cancer Day 2025 is United by Unique. This theme is part of a 3-year campaign that will focus on individual experiences of cancer patients, survivors, and caregivers between 2025 and 2027.
Now to the far north region, where voter registration seems to be somehow still slow or low. Out of about 100,000 voters or prospective voters expected in the far north region of the country, as at now only about 3,000 have enrolled on the electoral list for the upcoming elections in the country. Faced with this low turnout, members of ELECAM had decided to intensify efforts on the fields. Details with Malaglory.
The revision for electoral rolls for the 2025 exercise officially kicked off on January 6, 2025, yet the number of registered voters in the far north region of the country remains excessively low. Out of 101,000 targeted voters, only 3,542 are registered.
Si élections Cameroun et à Marois, ces jours-ci.
Faced with this, Honorable Jipendi Salifu, member of the Electoral Council, led an ELECAM team to the town of Marwa, where he organized a press briefing to encourage the population into getting registered on the electoral roll. Alongside the member of the Electoral Council, the regional delegate of ELECAM highlighted the numerous challenges hindering the registration process, amongst which is difficult access to the national identity cards, the persistent insecurity caused by the Boko Haram incursions, and inadequate work equipment.
Sans eux, l'élections Cameroun ne peut pas aller plus loin. Ce sont eux qui inscrivent, ce sont eux qui sont au four et au moulin.
Despite these obstacles, ELECAM says it is determined to meet the objective of 101,000 registered voters in the far north region before August 31st, 2025.
We now take you to news out of Cameroon. The M23 rebels who seized control of Kumba in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo have announced a ceasefire on humanitarian grounds, but the Congolese government is yet to comment. And elsewhere, the Mexican president and Canadian prime minister have also announced reinforcement at their respective borders to prevent drug trafficking. Our foreign page roundup with Cedric Chakutu.
Rwanda-backed rebels who took control of Goma, a crucial city in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, have declared a unilateral ceasefire in the area for humanitarian purposes. The M23 group made this announcement on Monday, responding to calls for a safe passage for aid and the needs of hundreds of thousands of displaced individuals. Goma is situated in a region rich in mineral sources, yet it remains under rebel control. There has been no immediate response from the Congolese government. On Monday, United Nations spokesman Stéphane Dujarric provided an update on the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo, expressing concern over rising health risks.
Colleagues say they're concerned about escalating health risks with the rainy season intensifying.
He noted that while some economic activities are resuming, schools and banks are still closed and food shortages persist. The United Nations reported that at least 900 individuals have died and 2,888 have been injured in the recent violence surrounding Goma, the largest city in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, now under rebel control. Elsewhere, the United States has finally suspended for 1 month the implementation of 25% custom duties on Mexican and Canadian products. U.S. President Donald Trump first announced on Monday, February 3rd, an immediate 1 month pause on custom duties against Mexico, which were to come into effect on Tuesday following negotiations with his Mexican counterpart. The U.S. President reported a very cordial conversation with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum and specified that during this pause, negotiations will take place with a view to reaching an agreement with his neighbor. Same scenario shortly after with Canada. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced on the social media platform X that the implementation of American custom duties was suspended for 30 days. An announcement confirmed a few minutes later by Donald Trump, who said on his Truth social network that he was very satisfied with his negotiations with Canada. Like the Mexican president, Justin Trudeau announced he had taken measures to strengthen controls on fentanyl trafficking at the border between Canada and the United States.
Thanks, Cedric. That report brings us to the end of the first part of the news. Let's now move on to Talking Point. Welcome back, viewers. Our guest tonight is Sir MUTAGHA Sylvanus TIFUH. He is a jurist and also the special advisor to the national president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement. Sir, thank you so much for accepting to be our guest on Talking Point tonight. Today we are discussing some incoherencies or doubts regarding the imminent candidacy of Professor Maurice Kamto in this year's election. Detractors, let's call them that way, say he is not eligible. You are of the CRM party and you are even a special advisor to the president. We may want to know, our viewers may want to know, why there is this debate on whether or not Professor Maurice Kamto can be a presidential candidate or not for this year's election.
Madam, and you bear in mind that until 2023, there hadn't been such a debate on social media platforms and even on TV channels, simply because the CRM was not so very active in the field registering Cameroonians. But immediately after the Congress of the party that was held on the 9th and 10th of September in Yaoundé, you find that political parties, especially those who are allied to the ruling CPDM and the CPDM militants themselves, took to themselves that job to be disinforming Cameroonians on the fact that Professor Maurice Kamto is not eligible for the 2025 presidential elections, and that which is not true is a lie from the pit of hell. Because if you were to base even on the electoral code, the electoral code spells it out clearly that if a political party is not represented at the councils, is not represented at the National Assembly, is not represented at the Senate, it has other means through which it can present its candidate for the presidential election. So looking at the electoral codes only, you find that it is not true that Professor Maurice Kamto cannot be a candidate for 2025 presidential elections. Now, coming to the Constitution of Cameroon, you find that in its Article 15, subparagraph 2 and 4, you find that the Constitution speaks of the nullity of the imperative mandate. What does the nullity of the imperative mandate says? It says that once a person is elected to the councils, is elected to the regions, is elected to the National Assembly and even to the Senate, the person can resign and join another political party and validly represent that political party at all the instances where he has been fellowshipping with during his mandate. So by this, the CRM has people who were elected during the 2020 twin elections, that's the municipal and parliamentary elections, who have resigned, and they are already militants of the CRM. So the CRM has representatives at the council, it has representatives at the region, at the National Assembly. Thank you.
Sir MUTAGHA, those on the other camp have been citing Article 121 of the Electoral Code, insisting on Professor Kamto not having elected party members or militants to represent the party as stipulated by the code. What arguments do you have in your defense? I'm talking like in the defense of the CRM party as a whole.
And you bear in mind that the Constitution is the supreme law of the nation, and other laws that do not respect the Constitution of the nation can be petitioned at the Constitutional Council. So if we were to base our argument on that, you'll find that the Constitution in its Article 15 states inter alia, I told you that the nullity of the imperative mandate is guaranteed by the Constitution. And let me tell all Cameroonians of all walks of life who are listening to this program to understand that. Let us take example, a simple example. Schools are authorized. You understand? Schools are authorized. Once a school is authorized and a teacher that has already gotten the qualification to teach resigns from another institution and joins another institution of learning, he becomes the teacher of that institution. It's the same way with the National Assembly. Following the National Assembly, the Senate, the councils, and even the regions. Once you have been elected, it means the people have given you the qualification to represent them. If you resign from that, from any of these instances where you were holding meetings or you were sitting there to talk or deliberate on behalf of the people, and you join another political party, you still represent their representative. It is only the difference there lies that on the fact that you've left another political party and you joined another political party. Remember, on local elections, people vote individual based on the credibility of the individual, based on how the people can best represent them at the National Assembly. It is true that they are being invested by the political parties, but here we look at the individuals, because the individuals represent their constituencies, the individuals represent their sociological compositions and all the like. So there is no base of the argument that Professor Maurice Kamto would not be presented at the 2025 presidential election because the CRM boycotted the last presidential elections, the last municipal elections and parliamentary elections. It is a lie from the pit of hell. And I want to say that even if we were to base on that, there are other parameters. Look at the candidature of the late man of God, Franklin Difo-Afani. He was invested by a political party, I'm sure the NPCM. And then if you look at the candidature of Cabral Libi, even at the 2018 presidential elections, he was invested by the Univer. I think it was invested by the Univer. When you look at the Akere Muna, even in 2025 elections, if he has to, his candidature has to be endorsed, you find that the same Univer that endorsed the candidature of Akere Muna is from Cabral Libi is already vying to endorse the candidature of Akere Muna. So Professor Maurice Kamto is just being the target of the regime in place and other detractors because he is renowned, and they are afraid that if he goes in, he has to win the 2025 presidential elections.
Sir MUTAGHA, we know of other possibilities such as being represented as an independent candidate, being able to mobilize 300 signatures or so in favor of Professor Maurice Kamto, etc. People are watching us out there and there is this confusion. Can you now clearly and briefly explain to us concrete reasons to prove Professor Maurice Kamto is going to undoubtedly stand as candidate for this year's presidential election, so your party can clear the air or clear any doubts in the minds of Cameroonians who are already registering for this year's election?
The first thing that I would say is that the Constitution of Cameroon, the constitutional judges or the constitutional writers, professors who wrote the Constitution of Cameroon got inspired from the French Constitution. And if you go to the French Constitution, you understand that the French Constitution interprets the nullity of the imperative mandate the same way that it is being interpreted in Cameroon. So the fact that we have elected officials within the CRM who can effectively represent the CRM at all the instances, at the council, at the regions, at the National Assembly, is a solid ground to tell you that Professor Maurice Kamto and the CRM can better invest a candidate for the 2025 presidential elections. And now, looking at the fact that the CRM is part the CRM candidate, Professor Maurice Kamto, has even been endorsed by the APC, the alliance, the Political Alliance for Change. The Political Alliance of Change is an alliance that is made up of about 30 civil society organizations and over 20 political parties of the opposition. So among these political parties of the opposition, some of them have elected officials at the level of the council, at the level of the National Assembly, at the level of the region, and even at the level of the Senate. So you find that it's not going to be an uphill task for the candidature of Professor Maurice Kamto to be validated by the National Assembly. What I want to tell Cameroonians is that the regime in place just wants to use this as a way to distract Cameroonians, to demobilize them, because they found that the CRM has been at the forefront of mobilization of Cameroonians to get registered massively on the electoral registers and register in and vote in 2025. So they want to use it. They want to misinformed, excuse me, Cameroonians by telling them that Professor Maurice Kamto will not be eligible, just as a way to distract them, maybe to discourage them from being registered. And you bear in mind that if you go to the nooks and the crannies, even in the streets of the nation's economic capital in Yaoundé, you find that those who are not well informed, who wanted to get registered, are only being discouraged by the mere fact that here some of the demagogues of the regime say Professor Maurice Kamto will not go in for the 2025 presidential election because he hasn't elected officials. This, which is a lie of the from the pit of hell, I will always say so. They are using it as a way to distract Cameroonians. And we want to tell them, let them come out from noise. This is the appropriate moment for each and everyone to mobilize his brothers, sisters, cousins, and all people of all walks of life, and let them get registered, because 2025 is the last bus stop. And Professor Maurice Kamto said it. The CRM has always vie for peaceful change through the ballot. But let them understand that if elections will be rigged in 2025, we are ready to dance to their tune, because it's commonly said, when injustice become law, resistance become a duty.
Voter registration is still going on, so go and register. Thank you so much, Sir MUTAGHA Sylvanus TIFUH, for accepting to talk to us on the news tonight. You are a jurist and also the special advisor to the President or National President of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, Professor Maurice Kamto. Thank you again for your time and hope to have you some other time. Viewers, thank you so much for always being with us. Thanks for being with Equinoxe Television. Thanks for the confidence. Our programs continue tonight. Equinoxe War comes up shortly. That would be in about 30 minutes with Sagalang at 7 p.m. and at 8 p.m. the news in the French language with Julien Besbisai. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television and see you again tomorrow same time. Bye-bye for now.